I have always considered myself a fairly peaceful person. People like that are called inconspicuous, not because they are gray, but because they don't look for trouble. I don't argue with cashiers, I don't write scathing reviews on Yelp, and I certainly don't take it out on my neighbors about cats on the lawn. That's probably why they took me for a simpleton who is easy to bend to one's will, but in vain. Because everyone has a limit, and beyond that, a completely different story begins. I inherited my house from my grandfather, an old log cabin in the Appalachian Mountains outside of Asheville, North Carolina. Half an acre of land, 2 pear trees by the porch, a creek in the backyard. It's all a bit run down, but to me, it's paradise. It's a relief from the hustle and bustle of Atlanta. I arrived there early last spring, needing to reboot after a divorce and layoff. The first week I just sat on the veranda, drank coffee from an old enamel mug, and listened to the wind rustling in the pines. It seemed like peace and quiet. But this paradise turned into hell as soon as she appeared on the horizon. Karen Smith, the new president of the HOA, Homeowners Association, of our community, Cedar Crest. Karen was a sharp woman, late 50s, wearing an oversized hoodie with her son's college logo, a Bluetooth headset in her ear, and a clipboard with dues charts. The kind of woman who had been a pioneer squad leader when she was a kid, only now she had an official HOA mandate. She showed up on my property Monday morning while I was laying bricks by the old grill. "Good morning," she said, without bothering to introduce herself. "And who are you?" I straightened up, dusted off my hands, and calmly answered, "Owner, this house is mine by inheritance. Deeds and title in my grandfather's name, and now in mine. Everything is registered in the area." "We'll check that out," Karen said, and twirling the tablet in her hands, she turned around and left as suddenly as she had appeared. The next day there was a new padlock on the chain of the gate, not mine. A fresh sign hung on the porch, "Association property, keep out." And taped to the door in blue duct tape was a 1-page compliance notice from the HOA stating in black and white that the property was abandoned, would be seized for community use, and was subject to release. I called the HOA office, wrote emails, knocked on the association's lawyer's door, silence, and the neighbors. The neighbors seemed not to notice. Some turned away, others politely refused to interfere. I had to go back to Atlanta. At home, I pulled out a dusty fireproof safe, my grandfather's will, a warranty deed to the land, extracts from the Buncombe County Register, property tax receipts. The papers were rock solid. But I knew that paper was one thing, and when people decided they had power, it was another. I came to the HOA office in the local clubhouse. A small office, the walls are covered with posters about the community spirit and waste sorting. At the desk is the same Karen. "Reception of citizens is on Thursdays," she muttered without raising her eyes. "I have the original documents. The house and the plot are private property, have not been alienated, the tax has been paid." I asked that the lock be removed and the notice be cancelled. She leafed through the papers, feigned surprise, and answered coldly, "According to our inspection, the property has been abandoned for over 2 years. It is the HOA's responsibility to declare such a property a common area if the owner is unknown or unresponsive. Who are you anyway? I live here. I've been traveling for a few months, but I pay my taxes and membership fees using automatic payment. Here are the bank payment printouts. Prove it in court," she snapped. "The reception is over." I walked out. It was disgusting. Not because of the argument, but because of how shamelessly she lied. The first thing I did was contact an old friend, real estate attorney Mark Johnson. He didn't believe in soft deals. No personal calls to HOA. Only official requests, certified mail. Got it? I understand. We filed a trespass to title and immediate access claim in district court. Mark also filed a trespass complaint with the State Department of Consumer Affairs and the Sheriff's Office. A week later, I returned to the cabin. My porch was already being poured with concrete. The association was building a community tool shed. I asked my neighbor Jim, a quiet Texan who lived 2 lots away. Only divorced by hands. Karen said it's approved. Don't wanna get involved, buddy. I turned around and left. My chest was no longer just boiling, it was seething. 3 days later, Mark called. They have neither a court order nor a decision of a quorum meeting of HOA members. Everything is supported by their internal inspection report. I asked for a copy. It only shows a photo of torn-off shutters. This will fall apart in court. Let's go to the court office to file a sworn statement. We drove, not to the lot, but to the county clerk's office. There Mark filed a temporary restraining order, TRO. The judge signed it that same day. The HOA must restore access to the owner and cease construction pending a hearing on the merits. That evening, a deputy sheriff drove up to the cabin. The lock had been cut off, legally now. The cement mixer had stopped. The HOA workers were hurriedly loading their tools. Karen came running an hour later. Her face was white with anger. You had no right. A court order. Do you want to complain? The deputy sheriff stepped out onto the porch and twirled the handcuffs on his fingers. Karen fell silent. The first hearing was scheduled for a month later. Mark was brilliant, precise as a surgeon. The HOA lawyer, on the contrary, was constantly confused. Association bylaws, abandonment, maintenance lien. The judge asked, where are the minutes of the meeting with the decision to recognize the site as a common area? He's getting ready. The judge raised an eyebrow. You had 6 weeks. Without a protocol, all actions of the association are arbitrary. The association tried to postpone the hearing, saying they were looking for documents. The judge gave them 2 more weeks and warned them of sanctions. A day later, a young woman, HOA's accountant, Allison Turner, called me. Her voice was shaking. I can't keep quiet any longer. They don't have any protocol. Karen ordered the signatures to be forged. I saved the drafts and the chain of letters. Can we meet? We met in a cafe. She handed me a flash drive. On it were PDF files, electronic drafts of minutes of emergency meeting, with the signature John Doe, electronic. John Doe was a member of the HOA who died 2 years ago. Mark was triumphant. This is criminal. Forgery of official records, mail fraud. I'm passing it on to the district attorney's office. Second hearing. Karen did not show up. She sent a certificate that she was under examination. The judge sighed wearily. Okay, let's listen without her. We presented certified copies of tax receipts, extract from the district register, expert opinion on the forgery of the protocol, HOA accounting letters, photo of the construction site on my porch. The HOA lawyer sat red-faced and silent. The judge gave his verbal opinion. I preliminarily see all of the HOA's actions as unlawful. The decision is in a week. A couple of days before the final meeting, I went to the site. Karen was standing at the gate. In her hands were bags of documents. You were just lucky, she said through gritted teeth. No, I just know how to read the law, and you are too carried away by command. You don't even know who you're dealing with. I chuckled. For the first time in a long time, I decided to open the map. Do you know who I was? 10 years. A major investigator at the GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation. I went on vacation, not retired, and yes, I still have the numbers of my colleagues in the prosecutor's office, but I chose to go without pressure, according to the law. Karen turned pale, turned around, and walked away. On June 26, 2024, the Buncombe County Court issued a decision. Declare the actions of Cedar Crest HOA illegal. Order them to return the property to its rightful owner and reimburse expenses, including attorney fees and repair costs. Forward the case to the district attorney's office for possible criminal prosecution for fraud and forgery. The silence in the room was palpable. I didn't smile. I simply nodded to the judge and left. Mark patted me on the shoulder. You survived. I'm back living in my grandpa's house. I fixed the roof, raised the porch, installed a new cast-iron grill. I planted crabapple saplings in the spring. The neighbors are now waving from their pickup windows and inviting me to barbecues. Even Jim one day approached. Sorry, man. Chickened out back then. I shook his hand. No hard feelings. Because now I know the truth is not always immediately visible, but it is like water through a stone. It will find a crack and break through. And Karen? They say she sold her house and moved to Florida. Maybe she'll start all over again there. Only now, maybe she'll be more careful. After all, not all quiet ones are as simple as they seem.